and this is Action and Adventure Tips, the place where you, the content creator, could come to learn about things and when you're writing so you avoid that dreaded one-star review. Today's topic is a little different. It's brought about by a question from a listener or viewer, Timster out of North Carolina. He wanted to know, what does it cost to start up a PI business? Well, that depends. There are a lot of things that are involved in starting up a PI business. A lot of it depends on where you're located, what state you're in, what city you're in, and what type of PI business you're planning on starting. For example, my investigation business focuses on financial investigations. There are some that focus on surveillance, which can lead to a lot more expensive things. There are those that do executive protection. But regardless of what type of PI business you're thinking of starting, here are a few things to keep in mind. First off, you're going to need the basics, and the very most basic thing you're going to need is your private investigator license. And typically that's an agency license. And once again, that varies by state. Some states don't even have PI licensing. You just decide you want to be a PI, that's it. You go be a PI. Other states, they require years of experience and lots of money. As a matter of fact, one state requires almost $1,900 for an agency license. Here in Washington State, you're looking at $640 just for the agency license. Another thing you're going to need, insurance. You do not want to be playing games without the insurance. Specifically, you're going to need two types. Liability, which is pretty much what most states require. The second one, though, isn't really required, although I would recommend having it anyhow. It's called errors and omissions. This is more of a professional type insurance. I carry it because, once again, I do financial investigations. If I make a mistake, I'd like to be sure that I at least got some coverage as it relates to insurance. Now, once again, that varies by the business. Some insurance you could get for about $600 per year, and I've heard of other PIs having to pay about $1,600 per year. And that's just here in Washington State. I really don't know what it's like in your state or where you might think you're going to be a PI. That's something you can find out by looking around at insurance brokers. You could do a quick, simple search online just by looking for insurance broker, private investigations. You know, if they have insurance for security guard firms, they'll likely have insurance for private detectives or private investigators. So, once you've got your license and your insurance, your next step is to actually have a business. Actually, you should probably have that in advance. That falls under other expenses, and I'll cover that later. But once you have your business, you're going to need some way of marketing yourself. So you're going to need to purchase business cards. You can go onto Vistaprint, get a really simple card, your name, your company name, and your phone number. That's all you really need. That costs you about $20 per 100 cards. I probably buy 500 cards every 10 years or so. I don't know that I even use that many of them. But I use them. They're very helpful when you're networking, you're at a conference or something like that. You can easily hand somebody your business card, or they could just take a photograph of it with their phone, which seems to be the most common thing nowadays. You will want to have some trifold brochures made up. Believe it or not, trifold brochures, you know, the little ones that are a piece of paper that are folded 3 times, are actually very useful for marketing. You can go to a attorney firm and provide them with your business card and your trifold brochure that specifically states what kind of investigations you do. Once again, mine says financial investigations, forensic accounting. So they understand right away, oh, this is somebody who's going to be looking at books, not somebody who's going to be doing surveillance. So you want to do that. You also want to join some professional organizations. Here in Washington, we have a couple, the Pacific Northwest Association of Investigators, which I belong to, the Washington Association of Legal Investigators, there's the Pacific Northwest Fraud Investigator Association, the Pacific Northwest License and Tax Fraud Association, in my case, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. So you definitely want to join some organizations and get to know your fellow PIs, because you're going to rely on them, believe it or not. Being a PI doesn't mean you just go out there and wing it on your own like Magnum PI. What it means is that sometimes you're referring business to PIs who are more specialized in one area than you are, and likewise, they'll refer business to you. I constantly refer business to other PIs who I know will be doing surveillance or executive protection or witness locates, and they refer any financial matters that people are looking for to me. That doesn't mean you're always going to get business out of it, but it's a good thing to have a good, strong working relationship and a good, strong network. And you can only really get that by joining one of these organizations. So take a look on your own state, see what kind of organizations exist. You might want to join the National Association of Legal Investigators, NALI, or something like that. Once again, if you're into financial investigations, you definitely want to check out the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. That's at acfe.com, I believe. I'll put the link down below. Another thing you're going to need is an office. Believe it or not, those things are still necessary. But the great thing about being a PI is you don't have to have the Remington Steel office where you've got the receptionist and the big offices. You can operate out of your home. 99.9% of the time, you are not going to be meeting a client in your office. You're actually going to get a phone call, and if you have to meet, you can actually do so either at their place or at a place of their choosing. Public libraries are always a great place because they have private meeting rooms and you can meet with them. We actually held a meeting one time, 3 PIs and 2 FBI agents to go over a case at a public library because it happened to be the best place for everybody. Well, actually, it was the best place for me, but that's a long story. So you are going to want to have your home office set up properly if you can. If you can't, find a place that's relatively inexpensive. That will cost you anywhere from $200 to $2,000. So you can either spend a lot of money on an office or not spend a lot of money on an office. I prefer not spending the money on the office. Now, that was the basics. Let's get into some of the basic equipment you're going to need because there is a bunch of it. The first one, of course, being your computer. You will need either a PC, a laptop, or in some cases, both. You don't need anything with gaming power, okay? So you're not doing fast. The main reason you're going to have that computer is you're going to be possibly looking at documents, you're definitely going to be writing reports, and you're likely going to be keeping a time schedule on it, a timesheet for yourself on any case you're working on. So this would run you anywhere from $500 to $1,500, depending on what you get. If you're operating a PC with 2 monitors, that's going to be a little different than just operating a laptop. Because of the work I do, I need a huge monitor and a relatively powerful PC. Is it suitable for gaming? I don't believe so, but I don't game, so it doesn't matter to me. You're also going to need a business phone, and that could be a cell phone, but I would recommend actually having a landline, one that is both a business phone, well, not both, but all a business phone, a fax machine, a copier, and maybe even potentially a scanner combined. You're going to need all of those things, generally speaking, anyhow, so it's probably best just to get one of them. You're going to want a cell phone, and I'm talking smartphone, not one of those old-fashioned flip phones with a little dial thing, because the fact of the matter is you're going to be out there, you're going to be needing directions to places. You're going to be using Google Maps or MapQuest. You're going to be doing research in the field. You need to have something that's fairly robust. So a decent smartphone with a good wireless service, that'll set you back anywhere from $600 to $1,100 depending. Then you need a locking file cabinet in your office. Why? Because you need to have your files locked away. If you ever decide to use any of the information providers out there like TLO, they do an office audit. You have to have a locking door on your office, and you have to have a locking file cabinet or a safe that documents can be stored in. And yes, I have those. Let's see, what else? You'll want a scanner if you don't decide to get one. I actually use one called ScanSnap. It's very specifically dedicated to the kind of work that I do. You're going to need a camera. Why? You don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people are actually using cell phone cameras, and they're pretty good. But you might want to consider getting a digital SLR or something that same quality. You're going to need to take good photographs, and sometimes you're actually going to take the photographs and try and blow them up just so you could read something. You actually might do that, when you're looking at something physical that's got a stamp on it, but believe it or not, it may be too small for you to read even with reading glasses. I don't know how many times I've actually taken my cell phone and used the camera option of it just so I could enlarge something and be able to read it. The last piece of equipment I believe you're going to need is going to be a desk and a chair, and you're going to want to get a quality chair. The desk, don't go with fiberboard. Get something that's made of actual wood or metal, something that's going to last. You want this thing to last as long as your career is going to be. If you're in your 20s, that's going to be 30 or 40 years. If you're in your 40s, that's going to be maybe 20 or 25 years. You want a quality desk and you want a quality chair. Now, these could set you back as little as $400, or maybe even $200 if you go with the really cheapo stuff, or more than $2,000. So once again, this depends on what you can use and what you can afford. Now, software. Two ones that I highly recommend. Microsoft Office 365, because you're going to be using Word and Excel a lot. That's $149.99. The other one is Adobe Acrobat Pro. This one is actually subscription-based. It's $19.99. Why do you need Adobe Acrobat Pro? Believe it or not, you're probably going to be manipulating a fair number of PDFs. You may have to actually combine documents into one big one. You may have to extract documents. I do this all the time. I got a 3,000-page .pdf one day, and I needed to break it down into chunks that I could actually run through my software to scan it for bank statements. I was able to do that. Why? Because I have Adobe Acrobat Pro, and I also have OmniPage, but that's something completely different, and you won't need that. At least not if you're not doing financial investigations. Now, there are a couple of other costs. The first one is your actual articles of incorporation. When you incorporate your LLC, and I recommend at least an LLC or an S Corp instead of a sole proprietorship, mainly because that will give you a little bit of protection as relates to liability. If you're operating as a sole proprietorship, everything you own is on the line. If you're operating as an actual business, an LLC or an S Corp, your business is on the line. Hopefully your own personal stuff is not on the line. Okay, another expense is going to be having your contracts or your letters of engagement written up. Once again, as with the articles of incorporation, you're going to want to have an attorney write these up, or at least have him or her review them. You don't want to just put those out there by yourself because you don't know what you're doing for the most part. You're not a legal beagle. Let the legal beagles handle it. And finally, the last thing is going to be a website. Yes, you are going to need a website with a dedicated email. You don't want to have it being, privatedick@gmail.com, because that's unprofessional. You want one that says maybe your name, in my case it's jpeet@peetassociates.com. So you might want to have it say, Timster at North Carolina PI Service or something like that. Whatever you're planning on naming your company is probably the best one you want to have. And make sure you lock in that domain name or something similar to it. But definitely have the website with the dedicated email address. So that's going to run you probably about $200 to build it and $50 a month to maintain it. And you don't want to try and build it on your own. Let a professional do it. How much do the attorneys cost? Yeah, it all depends, varies by state. You could probably have the articles of incorporation and the contract/letter of engagements written up for probably about $1,000 or so. But once again, check with an attorney. Check with a local business attorney. That's probably the best place to start on that one. All right, so let's summarize this. What kind of cost are we looking at? Number one, your PI license. That could be anywhere from $0 to $1,900 depending on what state you live in. Insurance, anywhere from $600 to over $1,000. Office supplies, number three, that's at least $250. Membership in organizations, that ranges anywhere from $75 to $250 or more. Start out with just a local one. That'll probably be about $150. Okay, office. You're going to have to invest between $200 and $2,000 plus on that. Equipment. It all varies on what you're doing. As I said, the basic equipment is going to run you probably about $2,000 and possibly as much as $7,200 or more. You know, again, it depends on what type of private investigations you plan on doing. Software is going to run you at least $170. And then your other costs, your incorporation, your contracts, and your website are going to be between $1,000 and maybe $1,500. So total cost, about $4,370 to about $14,220. Quite a range, isn't it? Yeah. Well, that's what you can expect. So once again, if you happen to live in one of those states that doesn't charge a lot for PI licenses and insurance, you're in luck. But if you live in a state like Washington, you're going to pay a lot. I hope this has been beneficial to you. If you like it, click those like buttons down there. Leave a comment. If you want to see me cover something else, by all means, put it in the link below, in the comments below. I'll be glad to, like I did here, make a video about it. Check out my website, jamespeet.com, and stay safe out there.